Howie may make the call, but does Howie really want to spend the money? How do you not spend the money on Deebo Samuel, man? It's the best. I'll tell you what, this ain't Alshon Jeffries. This guy's a beast. Been sitting here talking about Deebo Samuel coming to the Eagles or wanting to be traded. And sure enough, okay? And sure enough, it happens. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you coming aboard with us here. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button. I see Jeff Darlington says it today. Breaking news that Samuel wants out of San Francisco. And today it's news, even though we've been saying it. And some of you have been questioning my reporting over the last couple months because some of the hammerheads that are on Twitter, they do this. Okay. Well, Sileo said it, so it can't be true. Okay? Bottom line here, I told you this about 3 days ago. Deebo Samuel wants out of San Francisco. And you know why he wants out of San Francisco? Because Deebo Samuel is a guy that's being used differently in San Francisco, unlike they used Tyreek Hill in Kansas City or how they used Davante Adams in Green Bay. This guy had over 400 yards rushing for the San Francisco 49ers. He deserves $25 million. You use him in a hybrid. He's a hybrid player. You're basically playing for a position and a half. $25 million in today's market is a steal. And guess what? Eagle fans, he is the perfect fit. There's nobody in this draft this year that will help or improve your team more than Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. Nobody. And who has the draft assets and the cap space to get him? The Eagles. I keep hearing people say, what about the Jets? The Jets? Samuel gets sent to the Jets? What would the Jets do with him? BC says, Sills, you called it on Deebo. I did. We've been saying it the whole time. He wants out, and the Eagles have made calls to John Lynch because it just makes sense. And by the way, guys, that notion that you don't trade a player in the NFC or you don't trade a player inside the conference, that's old-style football. You trade a football team, and you trade with a football team and players that you get the most in return. Why would I cut off half the league when potentially another team could give me as many assets as possible? Remember when the RG3 deal got made? It was between the Rams and the Washington then Redskins. Nobody cared that they were both NFC teams, and nobody cares today. The Patriots dealt Drew Bledsoe to the Bills inside the division, let alone inside the conference. Good teams what they don't do is limit the marketplace. John Lynch is not going to go, I'm not dealing with any NFC team. That includes the Cowboys. That's what you don't want, Eagle fan. You don't want to see Deebo Samuel in Dallas. Deebo Samuel in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, you'll never beat that team. You'll never beat that team. You got to make this move. Jeff Darlington, earlier today, as I said, reported because he talked to Samuel that he wants out of San Francisco. He does not want to play in that system any longer. He wants to go back east. He's from the East Coast. He doesn't want to play in that system. And if he's going to play in that system, he's got every right to ask for more money. You're not asking Tyreek Hill, who had 93 rushing yards last year, to run the ball. You know, you're talking about a guy that you would assume would have a lot more rushing yards, Tyreek Hill. All those jet sweeps. He had 93 rushing yards. This guy had over 400 yards rushing, over 1,400 yards receiving. This guy is a hybrid player. You pay extra for that because why? Just like Jimmy Graham back in the day. You could line Jimmy Graham up at tight end, or you can line up Jimmy Graham at the wide receiver position. I disagree with anybody who says that there's somebody in this draft that could make your team a Super Bowl contender. Sure, are there guys in this NFL draft that can improve your roster? Absolutely. I'm talking about winning the damn trophy, not a hat. Not a hat. Here's where Howie Roseman can act like Andrew Berry of the Browns. Dude, if you get Deebo Samuel on your football team, see, Andrew Berry's already won the offseason. He's already won the offseason. He is the general manager of the offseason in the NFL. Andrew Berry's won it, hands down. Denzel Ward yesterday. Highest paid DB. You got an edge rusher on that team, and Myles Garrett, and you went out and paid $230 million in guarantees to Deshaun Watson. He's the general manager of the offseason. And I completely disagree with Stephen Jones. You don't win Super Bowls in the offseason? Yes, you do. Jimmy Johnson won Super Bowls in the offseason with the Herschel Walker deal. Jimmy Johnson won the Super Bowl in the offseason with all the draft choices that he had when he made all those great trades. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You win the Super Bowl today, not in September, when you have a limited roster. You do not. That team that the Eagles have right now currently constructed is a 500 football team at best with the schedule they have coming up. And by the way, once they play against a good football team in the NFC playoffs, they'll get waxed again. You always know how good a football team is if I say this. How many wins do you think that the Philadelphia Eagles would have if they were in the AFC? 5? That's a great question, Andrew. That's a great question. Matt Hatter, Sills, I came here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble gum. What a great movie. The Greatness of Rowdy Roddy Piper. Mad Hatter, I love that movie, man. Me and my wife dig that movie. Very underrated, too. Very underrated. And I'm all out of bubblegum. God, Rowdy Piper, man. I love that guy. You win the Super Bowl in February, Sills. With what? Reputation? You got to get players, dude, now, today. You don't get players in September. You got to build your roster today. Organize team activities, getting a chance to know one another. Building that chemistry. Defense has more holes. Defense has more holes. Dude, you need playmakers. You haven't had a playmaker since T.O. What is Deebo going to cost? Guys, let's do this. By the way, I'm feeling pretty good today, too. Last 2 days, I hadn't had the best health. Today, I'm feeling outstanding. So we're ready to really rock it. By the way, we're going to deviate a little bit. You know, I know you guys hear me talking a little basketball. Hey, Birdman, I know you hear me talking a little basketball and you guys may question my basketball knowledge. How about if I put Rick Barry, the legendary Hall of Famer, and one of the top 25 players in the history of the NBA at the bottom of the hour? We're going to have him. By the way, Mike Golick will be on tomorrow. So how about if we put Rick Barry on at the bottom of the hour and talk about if the Sixers have a chance to win the NBA championship? Would that be okay with you? We deviate a little bit? You know, because I'm going to be looking forward to that series with the Raptors and seeing how that thing unravels now as we go up to Toronto. Right? So how about we put Rick Barry on? Lord Brunson makes a return visit. Okay? He asked me the other day, how'd I do? Well, you got a second stint on the show. He'll be in the 5 o'clock hour. Okay? How about that, man? Right? We'll put Rick Barry on at the bottom of the hour. Love talking basketball with him. And by the way, so you know, Rick gives me a lot of shit. He don't always agree, and he'll put me in my place. Hey, Maniac, Brunson will be at the 5:30 spot Eastern time in the third hour, so we appreciate everybody coming aboard. You guys named it, and you guys nailed it. Okay? Deebo Samuel is his name. How much would he cost? How much are you now remember something. Look at the packages that the Raiders had to give up for Devontae Adams and what the Dolphins had to give up to get Tyreek Hill. Let's ask this. How much would you give up for Deebo Samuel to come to? Oh, and by the way, there's two components here. First and foremost, let's ask this. $27 million. Let's ask this. First and foremost, let's start here, Mad Hatter. Let's start here. Would you guys be willing to spend $25 million on Deebo Samuel? Yes or no? And by the way, wouldn't you rather spend the $25 million on Deebo Samuel than the $45 million on Kyler Murray? I would totally go like this. If I have to spend a lot of money this offseason, I'm going to spend it on a playmaker that's proven. Would you spend, yes or no? Would you spend the $25 million on Deebo Samuel? Big Dave loves comics, 20 to 25 a year, and a second-round pick. Hey, I'll get to the picks in a second. Okay? First and foremost, I want to know if you guys would be willing to pay the $25 million. Yes. Yes, sir. $20 million. Eagles are the only team in the NFL tied to every available player. Kivo, but that's Howie's reputation. Howie, I'm not posting that stuff on my Twitter page just to get clicks. I'm not doing that. I'm doing it because one of the most active general managers in all of the NFL is Howie Roseman. Is that not his reputation? Howie may not make – he went after Patrick Peterson a couple years ago in Arizona with Steve Keim. Okay, this is not – I'm not saying something that's out of his character. This is who he is. He's a guy that goes out and tries to find market value. So this is not something that's against his nature. Feast with Pete, now that's the other issue. Howie may make the call, but does Howie really want to spend the money? How do you not spend the money on Deebo Samuel, man? It's the best. I'll tell you what, this ain't Alshon Jeffries. This guy's a beast. And you play him in multiple positions. Let's just say Jalen's not getting him the ball. Well, watch this. If I get 3 years out of Deebo Samuel at all-pro level, the contract is worth it. Because I get a hybrid running back, I get a hybrid tight end, I get a hybrid slot guy, and I get a hybrid wide receiver. He's worth the economic investment. Even if he plays 3 years. Let's just go here. Would you pay Deebo Samuel $60 million in guaranteed money? Or $75 million in guaranteed money over the next 3 years? If he could give you Pro Bowl level effort, say he blows his knee out in year 3, late in the year. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Can you imagine what he's going to do for a player like Devontae Smith on the other side? Devontae Smith will have barn door openings across the middle. And Jalen will make that guy a 1,300-yard wideout. Your tight end could be a 1,000-yard catch guy. Your running game, you may not have the amount of attempts like you had a year ago, but that's okay. If you're at 4 or 5 a carry, I'd rather be more effective in the limited amount of carries to create play action pass. And my passing game is getting better, something the owner wants and the GM wants, and really the fans want. Birdman says Sill's fired up today. Yeah, I feel better. Oh, W2. Way to bring something I completely forgot. And he can block. And he's effective in your run game, knocking MFers out. Pass protection to W2. This is why my fans and my followers and my viewers and everybody who comes to this show are just absolute sports savants. No matter really what the sport is, you guys are just ass kickers. That's right, man. By the way, before I move on with Deebo and asking you what the price will be in picks, DB Talking says Jalen Hurts is now going to make anyone a 1,300-yard player. Okay? Let's do this. Seth was on Sports Take a couple minutes ago. By the way, I love Seth. You know I do. By the way, the respect level I have for Seth Joyner is Mount Rushmore. But tell me if you agree with him as he made this comment with the fellows just a couple minutes ago.
So Deebo Samuel apparently wants out from San Francisco. It's going to cost a lot. We know that. We see, with some of these trades and the King's ransom that some of the receivers are getting. Would you be aggressive in going after him, or would you try and go a different direction?
I was listening in, and I agree with D Gunn. I just think that the price is going to be too high for what you're trying to do, what you're trying to build long term. And look, Mike Shanahan, not Mike, but
Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan is really innovative in what he does. Okay. Do we have the type of play caller on our roster?
I knew he was gonna come. I knew he was gonna say that.
I'm just saying. Listen, when people look at players, okay, they see what players do in other situations with other coaches and in other systems, and they try to project what it's going to look like on their team. The media does it, fans do it, even organizational people who really don't delve deep into what makes a guy effective. You have to look at all of that. Are you going to be able to replicate offensively what Deebo does in San Francisco? And to Deebo's point, he wants out, but he may go somewhere and find that the grass ain't necessarily greener.
Yeah,
because he may go someplace else, and they might not be able to do what Kyle Shanahan's been able to do with him.
that's right.
And then he's going to get frustrated. And then they're going to ask him to take a pay cut, and he's going to tell him to go to hell. And the next thing you know, he'll be on the market again. Sometimes you just need to shut up and wait for the team to come to you with the right offer and go back to work, because San Francisco is the best place for him to be. And no, we don't need Deebo in Philadelphia.
I completely disagree with that. And to me, that's more of a shot on Nick Sirianni. Okay? It's more that he doesn't believe that Nick Sirianni is a play caller that can adapt to that player. Even though Nick Sirianni at 2-5 adapted and changed the entire offensive game plan in the middle of the season so that the team could go on to success and make the playoffs in his rookie year of coaching. I don't know about you, but I don't think Nick gets enough credit for that. Nick Sirianni sat there and saw himself at 2-5, talking about flowers being grown, talking about Kobayashi videos, and everybody started making fun of him over T-shirts. And you know what? You started hearing the whispers in the corner. Does this guy know what the F he's doing? And all of a sudden, they go on this magical run in the second half of the season. Team makes the postseason, and now we're debating whether or not Jalen is going to be the future of the team when we were talking about this guy being trash. Jalen may not be the future of the team. But you're trying to tell me you don't think Nick Sirianni, who completely changed the direction of the Philadelphia Eagles last year at 2-5, has the insight, working with a guy like Frank Wright, to be able to construct a game plan and utilize Deebo Samuel the same way Kyle Shanahan is? I could disagree with that. I think Deebo Samuel going to Nick Sirianni is a perfect fit. I saw a coach last year who was dead in the water. We were talking about this coach being fired and being a one and done. I said it. He sat there and went like this. We got to change this up, dude. This ain't working. You know how many coaches refuse to do that? 90% of them. And that's why they get blown out. Look at Chip Kelly. You think Chip Kelly would have ever changed his fundamental philosophy in Philadelphia? If he would have been there longer. He believed in that 85-play drive stuff. He believed in all that. And by the way, for the record, you need a player like Deebo Samuel in your offense. You know why? When you have an inexperienced quarterback, you're relying on long, sustained drives. You can't get into shootouts with Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes. That ain't working. You want long, sustained drives, and a guy like that keeps the sticks moving. Feast with Pete, I'm with you. Seth's wrong on this one. I love him to death too, man. No shade on him. Absolutely. Big Chris, I'd feature him in the offense, and guess what, man? Devontae Smith would welcome that. He'd be a 1,300-yard receiver. He could be a guy that could get 100 catches. Deebo he may not put up the gigantic, you know what Deebo Samuel would do in this offense here? Watch this. 1,000 yards receiving, 600 yards rushing, blocking like a madman. But Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith would benefit from that guy being on the team. Don't you think that a guy like Travis Kelce is going to suffer in Kansas City when you don't have that dude who's in Miami now, and he was the ultimate deep threat? You were so worried about Hill getting behind you that you left the underneath open. Well, you ain't got to do that any longer. You ain't got to do that. Deebo gets you first downs. He absolutely does. He gets you first downs. All right. We're going to take a timeout because I've got Rick Barry coming on, and the NBA playoffs have had the highest ratings in the last 11 years. I want to ask him about the Sixers. And the Brooklyn Nets and the Celtics tonight should be a pretty good ball game too. Don't forget, Lloyd Brunson will be with us in hour number 3 at 5:30 Eastern time. I'm going to tell you when we come back out of the timeout what the price tag would be on how many picks I would give up for the San Francisco wide receiver. Please hit the like button. Keep it right here on the National.